So, John,
Hmm?
do you fancy going and seeing the D&D movie in the cinema?
No, I'm not. I'm not too fussed about going and seeing it at the cinema. To be honest, I don't really want to support the people who are trying to cancel the OGL and stuff like that. So I'll probably give it a miss. To be honest.
Fair enough. See, it's not often there is a decent fantasy movie on, and Facebook says this one's really good, and I don't want any spoilers. So, don't tell John, right? But I'm at Cineworld. I'm going in, and I'm going to be back with a reaction when I finish watching. It was all right, It was a fantasy movie with a big budget and a lot of tangents. It was very, very D&D. Very. Vasquez the Barbarian was brilliant. You alright, love?
All right. Where have you been?
Nowhere in particular.
Mm-hmm.
But having seen the movie, I went and pulled up a tier list of fantasy films, and I went through. So my S tier: Willow, Labyrinth, Shrek, animated Lord of the Rings. My D tier: Bright, King Arthur, Jubilee, Lair of the White Worm, and most of the other D&D movies. I would put this one squarely in the B tier with The Black Cauldron, Dragonheart, Channel 4's Merlin, maybe the Sky Terry Pratchett movies. Similar films that I thought it was better than: the D&D movie from 2001, Your Highness. Right. So then I ended up with a list of films that I thought were comparable. So, A Knight's Tale, Balin's Journey, the D&D movie from 2001, Your Highness. There's one other film that I've put on this bit of the list, which is The Gamers 2, Darkness Rising. And for me, that is still the best D&D movie, because it's about the players, not about the story in the game. It's about how D&D brings groups of friends together, and that's the main appeal of the game for me. Thank you for not spoilering this movie yet, Facebook. Please don't let me be the one to do it. Go and watch it first. Stuff that made my brain itch. We're not 5 minutes into the movie, and I'm thinking, come on folks, it's 2023. Did you really have to fridge the wife? And well, for the storyline they had, yeah, they did. It worked. It felt weirdly disjointed, like it had been written to be a web series, and they just sort of cut out the start and end of each episode. So there was a lot of side quests, and there was a lot of stopping for a bit of exposition, explaining something's backstory that was only really going to be relevant for the next 15 minutes. There was a lot of tonal shifting in it as well, So they had like a sad bit, and then there was a wisecrack, and then there's some serious drama, and then there's some slapstick, and then there's like CGI action. And it did work, but it was all over the fucking place. So it wasn't a film to try and plot bust. Everything that gets mentioned is either resolved within the next 2 or 3 minutes, or you know exactly what's going to happen with it. Particularly the wife's in the fridge, and he's got to go and get this magic item to resurrect her, but it can only be used once. And I'm like, oh, well, one of the player parties blatantly going to die then right before the end of the movie, and he's going to use it to resurrect them instead. I think that whole bit, I mean, it didn't help that it was the end of the gamers, did it? It played out as it needed to, but it also seemed kind of cheap. Did the bard need to be a dick to the autistic paladin? It was beautiful to see that paladin acting like the autistic GM's player insert. I loved every minute he was on the screen. I'm aware that he's a big up Forgotten Realms character. I can't remember his name, and I don't want to spoiler it. But yeah, I loved him. And then as he's like helped him out, and he's off to go and leave the rest of the player party to do the end of the adventure without him, the bard was just slagging him off behind his back. And it just didn't seem necessary. It wasn't that funny. Maybe that's just me, though. Stuff I liked. Michelle Rodriguez. I always liked Michelle Rodriguez. Her character, I think it was called Holga. The second she came onto screen, in my head was Vasquez the Barbarian. And she was glorious. She seemed like a much more complete character than the others. And I don't know if that's because Michelle Rodriguez has been carrying trashy sci-fi movies for years and years, playing like Angry Space Cop #2 or Zombie Hunter in Van. You know, she's been doing these kind of roles for so long, and she's so good at them. And she looked like she was having fun the entire time, which was all I like it. Is it because the bard was kind of a dick, and I always loved playing that sort of tough barbarian character? Is it because I really like that actress? Is it because her player is supposed to be better at the roleplay aspect of the game than the other characters? I'm not quite sure, but regardless, she was fucking fantastic. Other stuff I liked. There was a really cool fight scene that was on like Giant's Causeway type terrain. I don't know if they filmed it on Giant's Causeway or if they built a faux Giant's Causeway. I'd assume the latter. There was a lot of like CGI background to it, but the actual choreography on that fight was great. But it was also just nice to see like the hex grid on the floor as they were doing a fight, and a way to work that into a movie subtly. It was really clever. It's always nice to see a fantasy world where there's no sexism. Some people are happily playing particular gender roles, some people aren't, but nobody gets like majorly in anyone's face about anything to do with gender, apart from the orc at the very start, which I think was more of a way of saying, hey, no, that doesn't fly here. There was another fight where the bard is tied up and the barbarians just like got a hold of a weapon and starting to kick into the bad guys, and the bard's shouting encouragement to the barbarian so that she's getting better hits, and it's just a really nice way of representing how bards work in a D&D fight. It was just very cleverly done. Like, he shouts across to a quip to her, and it's like, that's +2 to your next hit. That was really cool. Last one, Fat Dragon. I mean, the whole movie was really pretty, as you'd expect with the amount of money they've had to spend on it. But there were loads of cool creatures in it all the way through. A lot more practical effects than I expected. But yeah, Fat Dragon's definitely my favourite creature from that movie. It was ace. The OGL's kind of a joke anyway, isn't it? Really. I mean, there's only certain things that they can copyright, and you can use them for satire purposes.